It's a little dark here. Good morning, friends. I'm Evelina Erickson. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah. We are working to build a diverse, multicultural, and beloved community. We celebrate the presence and participation of LGBTQI and straight people of all races, genders, abilities, and ethnic and national origin. We welcome you on YouTube and on site, whoever you know yourself to be, and wherever you are on your journey. Our worship and covenant theme for April is the gift of interdependence. If you're visiting with us this morning and you would like to introduce yourself, please raise your hand and Jane will bring a microphone. Are there any visitors on this side?
Okay. Good morning. My name is Dave Martis. I'm visiting from Atlanta. I'm a member of Abundant Love Unitarian Universalist congregation in the West End neighborhood there.
Welcome. Anybody else on this side? All right. How about on this side? Any visitors? Okay. I think that's it. It's good to have you with us. Please join us in Ron Hall after the service for refreshments. Following the service, you'll find Ron Hall in the building next door. You can follow the crowd through the courtyard, or the ushers can direct you. And there are two cards in the back of the pew, a information card, a yellow card, and a white card for joys and sorrows. If you have, you can put either of these in the collection plate, and the ushers will collect them at that time. So you can use those for your joys and sorrows. Where are we now? Church announcements are emailed to members and friends on Tuesdays and Fridays. Please check your email for complete details. A couple of things to highlight. The Strengthening Families program needs one volunteer to partner with Kathy Monroe on May 14th. Let Brett Hyland know if you would like to prepare food for participants in this very worthy cause. Contact him directly or use the sign-up sheet in the fellowship hall. On Monday, tomorrow, there will be a sit-in on both the Armstrong campus and the Statesboro campus of Georgia Southern University. The protest begins at 11 a.m. and is a direct response to GSU's recent overt lack of support for the LGBTQIA+ community. Next to announcements. Today, we would like to take a moment and honor a member of our congregation who has truly demonstrated one of the most important tenets of our UU faith, and that is service. She has also demonstrated how to actually do the impossible and do it effectively and graciously. I think you all know her. Her name is Jane Rigo. And she's coming forward as a surprise. Okay, stay here. Jane is a full-time mother, a wonderful daughter, a wife, a full-time university professor, and this year she has also been the full-time president of our UU Church of Savannah. Though her term as president is not over until the end of June, she will be heading soon to Maine for the summer, and we did not want to miss this opportunity to thank her on behalf of our entire congregation for her outstanding service to our church and congregation this year. Thank you, Jane. And please do join us in the social hall after the service, where we will have a cake and a little celebration of Jane's service as our president. And lastly, we welcome our speaker, Julie Wade. Julie is a lawyer by training who has served Savannah's nonprofit community since 2017. She's the founder and executive director of Tharros Place, a 12-bed residential facility for survivors of human trafficking, girls ages 12 to 17. She previously served as the executive director of Park Place Outreach, a teen homeless shelter. She also serves on the board of directors for the Downtown Savannah Business Association. And I'll just add to the bio, I'm not sure there's anybody in Savannah that Julie doesn't know.
See some familiar faces.
With the lighting of our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian faith, we enter into sacred time. Our chalice lighter this morning is Sandy Mucci. Our chalice lighting words are from Sarah Elaine Lawal, and it's entitled Out of the Flames. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage and our deepest convictions. We stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith. With hope, we heal a fractured and heated and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery and wonder and awe of all that is out there and yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise. And I wrote our call to worship this morning, so it's credited to me. As we settle into our time of worship together, I invite you to think about courage and healing. Everyone has faced some kind of trauma in their lives. Some traumas are smaller than others, but every trauma shapes us as individuals and, to a greater or lesser degree, affects the way we interact with each other and the world around us. It takes courage to heal. It takes courage for an individual to say, I need help. Our worship theme this month is interdependence. In our interdependent world, it takes courage to ask for and receive help. How do we, as individuals and as a worship community, ask for help and likewise create a place of safety in our hearts and communities to help those who dare to ask for help to heal? Please stand as you're able for our opening hymn, number 121, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we
It is now time for the Story for All Ages, which is going to be led by Luke Higgins this morning. So if you'd like to see the pictures or just have a closer look, come on up.
So great to see so many amazing faces this morning. And we're going to talk about interdependence. And that's a really big word, but I'm going to break it down, okay? Basically, it means that people need people. People need help. And it turns out that not just people, it's animals and plants and trees and all kinds of things, that everything needs everything else. But I'm going to focus on people today. Now, some people, you can tell that what they need, okay? Because maybe they ask for help, and you know what to give them because they ask for help. Other people, though, you can't tell that they need things right away. Maybe they're mean. Maybe they're grumpy. Maybe they act strange. Maybe they talk in a language that you don't understand. Or act like they don't want people around. But really, they need people too. And that's what this story is about. And this story is in a series of books about a panda, a very wise panda named Stillwater. And Stillwater has a nephew, has three friends, and they're siblings. The oldest is Michael, and the younger is Addie, and the youngest is Carl. Carl's kind of my favorite. He's pretty funny. Anyways, so, and this is, his nephew comes and visits him. His nephew is named Koo. And when you say hi to Koo, it makes the word haiku. And if you'll notice, every time Koo talks, he talks in a haiku. So you can keep your ear out for that, okay? It's called Zen ties. Mom, there's a bear over there, said the little girl. A what? A bear, said the girl. What's he doing? Asked the girl's mother. He's sitting. Maybe he's waiting for someone, said her mother. Stillwater was waiting for someone. He was waiting for his nephew, Koo, to visit him for the summer on the train. Uncle Stillwater, summer, I have arrived. Seeing you brings smiles. Hi, Koo, said Stillwater. I brought you some welcome balloons. Koo took the balloons and bowed. An uplifting gift. Could you carry my case, generous uncle? Said Koo. It is a short walk to the house, but there is a nice park on the way. Let us stop there and have some tea. Stillwater, Koo, and the balloons all sat quietly in the park. You see why it's an uplifting gift, right? Because it's lifting Ku up into the air. Okay. Just want to make sure. He was very good. My cup holds emptiness now. Where shall I put it? Asked Ku. Stillwater did not like to waste. We will use these cups every day while you are here, so we shall save them. Suddenly, Stillwater burst out laughing. That tickles. Hi, Stillwater, said his friends Addie, Michael, and Carl. We were just coming to see you. Hello, said Stillwater. I would like you to meet my nephew, Ku. The children introduced themselves, and everyone ran off to play. Addie invented a game called Jump on Stillwater. And I'll tell you a little secret. Hugo plays that game with me a lot, except it's called Jump on Daddy. It's pretty fun. Michael wanted to ask Stillwater a question. I'm going to be in a spelling bee. What would you do if you were in a spelling bee? I would spell words, said Stillwater. Michael looked at his shoes. Well, what if you weren't sure of how good you were? I'm anxious about it. I feel like I'm going to mess up. Do your best. That is what you are supposed to do, said Stillwater. But it's hard to do my best when I'm nervous, said Michael. Stillwater nodded, and then he smiled. Ku and I have to visit Miss Whitaker this afternoon. I would like you and Carl and Addie to come with me. The Miss Whitaker who lives on our street? Said Addie. That Miss Whitaker? Asked Carl. She hates us. She's really old and she spits when she talks. And every time we walk past her house, she shouts at us. She scares me. Michael said, She's your friend? Stillwater looked at them. Yes, he said. She isn't feeling well, and we must bring her something to eat. The children helped Stillwater prepare some soup. It smelled very good. Then they put it on a tray with some soft bread. As they walked quickly down the street, Stillwater said, Miss Whitaker is a good friend. You will see. Why on earth did you bring these children here? Shouted Miss Whitaker. The children backed away. Hello, Miss Whitaker. You look well today. We've brought you some nice soup. Carl looked at Miss Whitaker. She did not look well at all. She looked thin, and she looked small. Much smaller than she did when she stood on the porch yelling at them for throwing a ball in their yard. Stillwater helped Miss Whitaker up to bed and gave her some of their soup. Then he asked Addie to sweep the floors, and he asked Michael to open the curtains and the blinds. Carl, hold the dustpan still, said Addie. Carl and Ku are very good at drawing pictures, said Stillwater. I can't see pictures anymore, said Miss Whitaker crossly. Carl and Ku drew several pictures together anyway. When it was time to leave, Stillwater put them up all around Miss Whitaker's bed. He told her they would come back tomorrow. Outside, the children said goodbye. Bye, said Carl. Bye, said Addie. See you tomorrow, said Stillwater. I don't know, said Michael. I should study for my spelling bee. You should come. You should come early. Now, what's Miss Whitaker doing in that picture?
Walking out of the bedroom.
Yeah. Maybe she likes pictures after all. The next morning, Stillwater told Michael, Miss Whitaker used to teach English. She did? Asked Michael. Then Stillwater said, Miss Whitaker, did you know Michael is going to be in a spelling bee? Well, said Miss Whitaker, I know something about that. Now listen, she's talking to Michael. Just like plants, roots have words too. A plant grows from its roots, and so do words. Roots of words can teach you how to spell. And with that, Michael spent the whole morning with Miss Whitaker learning about words and studying for his spelling bee. I didn't do a very good job with this microphone, did I? The next day, Stillwater found Koo looking up at the apple tree in Miss Whitaker's yard. Oh, hello, Stillwater, said a voice from up in the tree. Can you catch me? He's good at things like that. I was getting some apples for Miss Whitaker, said Carl. This morning sunlight gathering apples and a boy, said Koo. After the spelling bee, Michael raced over to Miss Whitaker's. I did it, said Michael. I made it all the way through to the end. Good, said Stillwater. So, you were not too nervous? Oh, the judges were nothing compared with Miss Whitaker, said Michael. Yeah, said Carl. There's Carl coming on a skateboard. Just this morning, she was shouting at us again. Then why are you smiling? Said Stillwater. She was telling us to get out of the street and play in her yard instead. Remember the beginning, she didn't want them to play in the yard. On the last day of Koo's visit, Michael presented Miss Whitaker with the blue ribbon he got at the spelling bee. Carl gave her the apples he picked from her tree. My mother taught me to make apple tea, said Miss Whitaker. I haven't made it for years. Now Addie and I have made some for you. When it was time to say goodbye, Addie, Michael, and Carl gave Koo a big hug. Summer fading, new friends' faces lighten the way home, said Koo. At the train station, Stillwater looked over at Koo. You may throw away your cup now, said Stillwater. Koo shook his head. Nearing my visit's end, summer now tastes of apple tea. I will keep my cup, said Koo. And that is your story to keep in your heart and to contemplate. And you guys are going to come up with me to RE today.
So some of you may know and some of you may not know that fundraising has been my career for more than 25 years. And if you had asked me before I became a fundraiser if I wanted to ask people for money, the resounding answer would have been, dear God, no. After all, it's just too personal. And in the US, we're taught we shouldn't ask people for money. And what I've learned over the course of my career is asking for gifts really isn't about the money at all. It's about learning what people love and where their hearts feel called. As the offering plate comes around, please consider why you are called to give to the UU Church of Savannah and do so with a joy-filled heart. You can donate via debit or credit card or use the QR code on the back of the order of service. or go to our website and click the donate button. Mail checks, of course, are always welcome. Thank you for your generosity. Not to worry, we've got this all organized here. We have a sorrow from Stacy Lazary. My uncle Mervyn passed on Friday morning in Miami. He is my closest relative other than my sister. And May 1st is the anniversary of my sister's death. Your mom's death. I'm so sorry, Stacy. We have a joy from Judy Williams and an other. Concern/need prayers for my neighbor Phyllis, who's having surgery on Tuesday. And a joy that Jordan, Luke, and Oliver will be singing anthems at noon on Saturday at the Savannah Scottish Games. We have a joy from Rexana Lester. The auction dinners have been fantastic. Many thanks to the host. We have a concern from Luke Higgins, wanting our congregation to send our beloved RE Director Megan Dunkelberg love and support as she and her family cope with another round of COVID, the second since her mother passed away last summer. And a joy and a concern from Milne Cato. First, the joy. Despite some setbacks, thanks to the work and support of Roger Steves, Jackie Smallwood, Tom Cato, Lily Hutto, the Aragon family of Amber James Isla, August, as well as Aza, Ziggy, Jane Rago, and Scott Griffin. Yesterday, we were finally able to plant and water our new RE Youth Native Garden. I hope you'll enjoy watching it grow. And also a concern from Milne, because we're unable to use the pressure-treated boards for raised beds, we have a number of ready-cut boards available for you to build your own raised beds at home for only $5 a board, pre-cut, that's not too bad. And come talk with Milne or Tom if you're interested. Let us hold our joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts as we join together in the responsive reading which is found in your order of service. Sorrow is everywhere.
Yet joy is reborn.
As we mourn together, so we celebrate and offer thanks.
That we are not alone.
So it may be now and in all the days to come. Our meditation this morning is by Douglas Taylor. It's entitled Meditation on Courage and Vulnerability. I'm learning to let my guard down. We all know about the deep instinct to respond to difficulty and stress with either fight or flight, with force or swift retreat, with decisive attack or prompt withdrawal. When faced with stress or difficulty or challenge, I'm learning to let my guard down. I'm learning to be vulnerable. I'm seeking the courage to be open. I would have my vulnerability be a choice made from my courage rather than my fear. I would have my vulnerability be my strength. May my strength not be found as a hard shell of defense or a sharp weapon of attack. May my strength instead be found in an open space of kindness and empathy, like a tree bending gracefully in the windstorm. May my strength be found in a willingness to join in the suffering of others. Like a forest of trees together in a storm, may I choose to be receptive rather than protected, sharing rather than shielded. In this way, may I face my own suffering and the suffering of others with the nimble capacity to respond with compassion. In this way, may my vulnerability be an invitation for others to meet me in the open field with a yearning for understanding and peace. I know this is a risk. I know that I may be hurt. I know things may not go well. But still, I will seek the courage to set aside the closed fist, the stinging retort, the barbed judgments of others. I will seek within myself the strength to stand and exposed and unguarded before the world. In the wind, open to difficulty, not because I cannot be any other way, but because I have chosen this better way. I'm still learning to be vulnerable. I seek courage to be vulnerable. May I have others who can help me be so courageous. May my example serve others as well as myself. And may my strength be our strength in sharing this life openly with others. Amen. Our first reading today, I found in a blog a survivor of human trafficking, and she contributes to a blog called Dressember. Dressember is a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising awareness of human trafficking by getting more people to pledge to wear a dress or a tie for the 31 days of December. This young lady is named Hannah Blair. My childhood made me the perfect target for sex trafficking. Physical, emotional, and sexual abuse constructed my reality and caused me to live most of my teen years believing nobody would ever want me or love me. We often talk about the things that make someone vulnerable to trafficking, like poverty or addiction. But I think one of the biggest risk factors we leave out is loneliness. My abuse and feelings of loneliness made me vulnerable, and the more vulnerable you are, the more powerful traffickers become. There's an assumption with trafficking survivors that physical safety equates psychological and emotional safety, but that isn't true. I think people underestimate what it takes to heal from trafficking. Physically getting out of the harmful situation is 2% of the journey. The other 98% is the hard, long-term work of healing that follows. In many ways, healing after my trafficking experience was much more difficult than the trafficking itself. I went from having every single decision made for me, every word spoken for me, and everything done to me, to being thrown in a world where all of a sudden I had to do everything for myself. Despite the trauma that I went through, I was expected to know how to live in society as a normal young adult, how to have relationships and maintain a job and go to school. But the reality was, I didn't know how. I didn't need some extravagant rescue team breaking down my trafficker's door to come in and carry me to safety. I needed the urgent care clinic to notice that it wasn't normal that I visited 7 times in the span of a couple of weeks for recurring UTIs. I needed my teacher to notice how I went from having perfect attendance and straight A's to failing tests and not showing up for class. We have to change the cultural narrative about trafficking. Honestly, for lack of a better word, I feel fighting trafficking has become almost a fad. But anti-trafficking advocacy isn't some bandwagon trend, like the way we see an influx of anti-trafficking campaigns around the Super Bowl or the National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, as if trafficking doesn't exist outside the bounds of these two events. But it does for many of us. And it's time we were seen. Will you notice? Being mindful of time, I'm going to skip the second reading for now. If we have time after Julie's presentation, then I'll read it, but I'll make sure that Nancy has it to share with everybody if you're interested.
Hello, good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I do a lot of presentations, but I've never done a sermon, so I'm a little overwhelmed being up here. That's what everyone keeps telling me. I just want to say how grateful I am to be here. If you ever get here early, you should come see the choir practice. The joy and fun they have was fantastic. So it was really great to be here early and great to be here. I do want to tell you Tharros. Does anyone know what the word Tharros means? It means courage. That's why we've been talking about courage this morning. It means courage in Greek. And I actually know that that's what it means because recently I was somewhere and 2 people who were Greek came up and said, "Do you know what Tharros means?" And they confirmed it means courage. So my Google search 2 or 3 years ago had worked. We're going to hand off the slide here. So my name is Julie. I don't know how to get to that escape thing. And I bring my background because it's kind of relevant to how I got into this space. And sometimes life kind of leads you in twists and turns, and I never thought I'd be doing this. But about 15 years ago, I was at the U.S. Attorney's Office prosecuting child sex crimes. Then it was mostly child pornography, trafficking. The first trafficking law came in about 2000, so it was around, but it's a relatively new concept for victimization and for crimes, even though unfortunately it's been going on for quite some time. And then I was criminal defense attorney, and I also served on our Board of Education for 10 years, which was a really great experience for me. But in all these different ways, I was sort of working with youth, and I was working with crime and victims, and I was seeing all these kind of related patterns and trends, and talk about interconnectedness between children in school and unfortunately our juvenile justice system and then our adult justice system. And so in 2017, I left to become executive director of Park Place Outreach, which is a teen homeless shelter. I'd been on boards, but I had no development experience, no management experience, no managing people. So it was a really, really great 5 years of growth in that role. And in the course of that, I was brought into a lot of conversations about the need for a facility for survivors of human trafficking. About 10 or 12 years ago, there had been an FBI sting here locally on a human trafficking operation, and 2 young girls, aged 12 and 13, were identified. And at the time, law enforcement had no clue what to do with them, no clue. So they took them to the ER, which also had no clue what to do with them. And these poor young people were just re-victimized by no one knowing what to do and feeling discarded. And that started this conversation about a need for a facility and a dedicated organization for trafficking. And we had a subcommittee and we had a task force and we did all those things and talked about it. And then finally we were able to start Tharros Place. So I do want to talk a little, and I was glad to see the kids left, about trafficking in our community. If I leave you with anything today, I want you to know that these are our children and our community. This is not an immigration issue. Kids are not coming in on container ships. They're not being kidnapped and like hidden in the closet. These are our kids in our community who are incredibly vulnerable and highly susceptible to victimization, manipulation, and control. And so there's a lot of stories about trafficking, there's movies, but what we see in our community are our children who are victimized by this. Chatham County in 2022 ranked 4th in the state and 2nd outside of Atlanta for trafficking. That's due to a lot of different reasons. Our tourism industry that we love also makes it more susceptible to that. Big events like St. Patrick's Day, when we heard the reading about the Super Bowl, but things like that make us more vulnerable. Our very high rate of poverty and youth homelessness. We have 1 in 4 live in poverty here in Chatham, or in the city of Savannah. And so those are some of the factors that lead to this. I will also say that we're doing really good work in this area. And so sometimes when you have more awareness and you have more resources, your numbers go up because people talk about it and report it and know where to get help and access. And so that's another reason we think our numbers are high, is because we're actually doing good work on awareness and outreach throughout the community. So I don't want everyone to like go and like every time you see an older man with a younger girl think it's trafficking, but I do want to talk about this, and we heard some of the things that Evelina brought up in her reading. Again, these are girls in our community. I had a board member who was in an Uber one day, and he was talking about Tharros Place, and the Uber driver said, yeah, there's a girl that I drive, she's definitely school age, to a hotel all the time. She's a trafficking victim, most likely. So what you'll see is girls kind of, and boys too, this certainly happens to boys, doing well, and then they'll, all of a sudden they'll have a significant change in behavior. Sometimes if you encounter them, the child may not speak without sort of the older person's consent, or sometimes they'll speak for them. A lot of times it'll be new clothes, new hair, new phones. A lot of these young people think they have an older boyfriend who loves them, and maybe the home situation is so bad that that's a better situation, and all of a sudden they're under the control and manipulation and addiction of the abuser. There are tattoos and brandings that some traffickers will use, and so these are some of the signs that we see in our girls. So we talked a little about Tharros Place and the need for it, and this very long conversation that's been going on in our community for years. And so we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of Tharros Place. So this is our mission. Again, Tharros means courage in Greek, and we think courage is something you can really control. A lot of times the word hope is used in this space. It's great to have hope, but hope is kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really seem like you can control hope. And so courage, we really feel like that's something you can kind of own. It can be your own. It comes from within. And so we try to constantly lead with our girls to talk about courage. We have a 24/7 staff, and one of the great things about starting a new organization is we get to start from scratch. So it was really important to us to pay a living wage for all of our staff. You'll find that for some reason people think if you work in nonprofit you should make less. You still have the same power bill and car bill, and so it was really important to us to make sure we paid a living wage, and really we spent a lot of time working on our values as an employer, and we got our leadership team to talk about what kind of culture did we want to have, because you have to think of the intimate environment we have. Our girls are with us 24/7, and so we really need a united team, whether you're working the night shift or the day shift. So we had really the pleasure to really work on that before we opened. And then collaborative community outreach has been really, really important to us. We've come in and filled a gap, so we're not really stepping on anyone's toes, but we have partners throughout the community, and we'll talk about that a little later, that we could not have done. It's been a massive undertaking, and we could not have done it without those partners. And so our vision is girls are with us for about 12 to 15 months, and when they leave us, we really want them to have the tools to have an independent life on their own and on their own terms. So we're pouring on education, employment, well-being, and life skills, but we want them to have dreams, know how to get there, and have that well-being and that sense of confidence that they've not had previously. And really, we want that for all of our teenagers. It's something that we're all trying to do. And then diversity, equity, inclusion has been very important for us. Most of the girls we serve are girls of color. And so early on, we had made a commitment that at least half of our board and half of our staff would be individuals of color so that we could have that experience. And so that's been really, really important to us. And it's been really effective. We have a really, really diverse group, both in staff and the board. So we are a 12-bed facility. Someone said, can't you serve more than 12? And I said, I feel like 12 highly traumatized teenage girls is a lot. And it is. We are out in Pooler. I live in the city of Savannah, and I was kind of a snob about Pooler, but it's very cool out there, cooler and Pooler. We're really happy to be there. Not a lot of nonprofits there, so we've been able to really develop some great community partners. These girls are obviously highly traumatized. They do not come running in the door saying, yes, I'm at Tharros' place, this is great. Most of the time, they don't want to be there. They have been under the control. A lot of them don't even see themselves as victims. And so there is a rocky entry often. But they're with us for about 12 to 15 months. And we really think in that amount of time, we can make transformative change. When I was at Park Place, which is a great organization, it's a crisis center, and so you're there for about 30 days, and it's really hard to make long-term impact there. But we really think in 12 to 15 months, we can really do significant change. And we have one girl that started with us in December, and again, it was a rough start. She came in with dreams, but she came in with a lot of trauma and behaviors. Ripped a mirror off the bathroom wall, punched a hole in the wall. She is now doing great. She wants to go to Spelman. She speaks well for herself, advocates for herself, is controlling her emotions. Doesn't mean that it's not still a little rocky, but when 3 of the girls last week jumped out the window to try to go to Orange Crush, she did not. So we thought that was a win. Everyone's fine. Don't worry. Everyone's fine. Most of our girls are already identified as either being a victim of sex trafficking or highly susceptible to it with a history of runaway and abuse. And they're typically placed by the court. So they're in juvenile court for either defects reasons, because the home is not a safe place, or they've committed some juvenile delinquency. A lot of these girls are forced by their trafficker into drug trades or shoplifting or things like that. So they'll come in through the court system. We have a treatment court in our juvenile court system called Hope Court, and it is just like a drug addiction treatment or a veterans court. If you're identified as trafficking, you go into this Hope Court where you're receiving services for your victimization. So it's a really different way to think about our juvenile court system, and so they're placing girls here as well. Okay, so this is a fun story. I like this. Katie, you're gonna love this one. So when I was at Park Place during COVID, we actually did pretty well financially because we were a frontline worker, or whatever those terms were. We continued to be open. And so I received an anonymous donor of $25,000, which was a huge amount for Park Place or any organization. And so I called the lawyer that was distributing this money, and I basically was like, where did this come from and how can I get more? And he was representing a very wealthy widow who was silently distributing significant assets throughout our nonprofit community. And that's amazing, right? Like, no one knew who she was. Someone figured out and tried to get her a plaque, and she wouldn't even take it. So he was just kind of silently distributing this money. Some of you may be involved with some organizations that received it. And I said, well, this is amazing. What's her value system? What does she want to do? I was just so intrigued by someone that would be so generous. And he said, well, she really wants to do something for teen girls. Do you have any ideas? And I said, well, there's been this conversation for years about the need for a shelter for survivors of human trafficking, and it's too big a project to just take on voluntarily, and no organization was willing to take it on. He said, put together a proposal and let's see what we can do. And so I put together a proposal for just over $500,000. So you can see it there, 80 for the first year for seed money, 100 for operations for the next 2 years, and $250,000 investment in the facility. And he said, okay, she'd approve it, let's go. And so I left Park Place and we started it. And the reason I tell this story is, first of all, it would not be here. Tharros Place would not be here without this startup money. And this type of investment is the same type of VC or angel investment that we see in Silicon Valley or in startup companies. And we need this kind of investment in nonprofits here in Savannah if we want to fill gaps and we want to do big things. I'm grateful for every $5 donation we get. Every penny counts, but we need big investment in nonprofits. And this came really with no strings. So this was not like a government grant where I have to report every time someone sneezes. So if you have access to millions of dollars, but it's an example of thinking big and investing in ways. And we talk a lot about return of investment. What are we doing? How are we saving the community money? How are we investing in these girls? So we talk a lot about that, again, just like a for-profit business. So this is why we are here, and we're very grateful for this donor who really got us off the ground. We also had some really early investments. Again, we can make a really compelling case about the need in our community. Our First Lady, Marty Kemp, has done a lot of great work in trafficking. It's one of her top priorities. There was just some legislation passed recently. And so we came in a good space, and we were able to get levels of investment from federal, state, and local and county. So it's really important to understand kind of every level recognizes the need to invest in this work. This is just our leadership team. And again, the great thing is we were able to, in part because we had this federal grant, to really hire a team before we opened. So this is our team. LaToya Scott is our residential director. That was a position. She's basically running the residential facility. I don't go out there much. I can barely raise my own teenagers, the skills to do that. And so we looked for this position for like 6 or 7 months, could not find the right person. And then she's moved up from Brunswick and has just done a really great job. We have a full-time educator. Education's really important to the girls. A lot of them have either been unengaged or totally absent from school for years. And so it was important for us to have a full-time educator. All of them are enrolled in the Savannah e-learning academy. Obviously, online learning is much more robust than it was a few years ago. We want to keep them in our facility. So they do that, and they do lots of outings, lots of experiential education as well. So this is our leadership team. I'm really grateful for the hard work that they do, particularly those in the direct care spaces. And this is our board of directors. Again, diversity was really important to us. We started with about 5 or 6, and then as we had a need, we would bring people on. And so we realized quickly we needed someone with some HR experience, some construction. I brought my friend Justin Vanderbrink on. He's owns a construction company, and I said, I just need some advice. And the next thing I knew, he was running our entire renovation. So we have a police, Farrah Lawrence is with DFAC, so a really great board of committed individuals. And I mentioned the community aspect of this. So we bought this facility out in Pooler. It was a former nursing home, and frankly, it was pretty sad. You may remember at COVID, remember you couldn't like go into nursing homes and no one was allowed. Well, these closed about 18 months after COVID for lack of staffing. So you can just imagine how sad that must have been at the very end. And it just felt sad. And so we collaborated with SCAD, and SCAD Serves designed our interiors. They were amazing. At points they were too amazing. I was like, I don't think we can pull that off. But the whole class was dedicated to our designing that, and so we took those designs and we went to Wayfair and IKEA, both of which have huge, huge warehouses, and they donated all of the furniture. Which all new. It was amazing. And then we brought volunteers in to do all sorts of work, lots of painting. They pulled up the floors. So this was our volunteer time. You can see our super cool mural there. That was done by a SCAD alumni. So lots and lots of volunteer work before we opened. And then we have a lot of national partners that have come in. What we're finding with a lot of corporate giving, instead of just sprinkling out to everyone, different companies are picking different corporate investment priorities or charitable investment priorities. And so there are some that have identified trafficking. So Aetna was one that actually contacted us to say this is a value that we want to invest in. And so these are some of our national partners. It's been really great. And again, Wayfair and IKEA. There's no IKEA store here. I say that, people are like, where's the store? But there is, they do have warehouses here. And then I think we just have a few slides with lots of local support. Again, because no one else is doing this, people just have been really, really supportive of us once they kind of understood. And then lots of nonprofit partners. We work with so many other providers, so we're not duplicating services and we can lean on other resources. And I know it's about noon. I know everyone likes to get out of church at noon. So I just want to talk one more thing. We have a stakeholder meeting twice a year. What we found is a lot of different groups were interested in human trafficking. Maybe it's a Sunday school class. Maybe it's a small business. So we started these stakeholder meetings twice a year. We bring everyone together. Over at Savannah Tech, we bring in a speaker. We have vendors. Our next one will be in September. We actually have a date. I don't have that. But everyone's welcome to come. And so if you'll go on our website, you can get on our e-blast, but this is a great way to connect with other people interested in this work, see what's going on, and learn more. And so this has been a really great opportunity for us, and it's sponsored by Delta. So I think that's it. I think the next one, I think there's just some about our events, but I do want to go one more, please. Thank you. So everyone wants to know how to help, and we really are grateful for that. We are really trying to figure out a way to use more volunteers, but also keep, obviously, the safety of the girls. So we opened in December. So prior to that, we had volunteers in all the time. And the minute the girls arrived, our first 2 girls arrived early December, our needs for volunteers changed significantly because if you're going to work with the girls, we have to do a background check and volunteer training. So we are starting to do a little bit of that work. We also are doing lawn day. We're back now that the weather's nice, doing lawn volunteer days on Saturdays. So if the congregation wanted to come or do that, every other Saturday we're doing like basically yard maintenance. We, of course, always need money, just like the Unitarian Church does as well. We also have an Amazon wish list. That was super popular when we were starting up. All of our linens and kitchen stuff and everything was purchased on that, and we still have that going. Join us on social media. We're the only Tharros place around, so you can find us there. And then our events, again, we obviously have traditional fundraising events, but those stakeholder events are free. And then what I'd really like for you to do today, when you return to wherever you have your Sunday afternoon or your Sunday dinner, if you'll just share a little bit about what you learned today. We're trying to spread the word about what trafficking is. We're trying to dispel kind of the myths of what it is and help people understand. So I hear there's snacks afterwards, so I'm going to stick around for that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to chat with you. But thank you again for including me in this today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think everybody learned something from Julie's presentation. There's been a change in our last hymn, and I also realized halfway through I skipped a hymn, but I think in the mindset of time, we're good. So anywho, our closing hymn is going to be number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. As we go forward into this frightening, exhilarating, confusing, miraculous world, may we offer our comfort to the afflicted, our love to those who are lonely, and our wish for all to be safe.